My life revolved around my research. It was a groundbreaking project, something I poured my heart into for years. Dr. Vivienne Hayes, my mentor, was my rock. I saw her as a second mother, a brilliant mind who championed my work. My world felt stable, built on trust and passion. I believed in my project, and I believed in Vivienne. Vivienne started to weave herself into my personal life more than usual. She'd suggest dinners with Mark, my husband, and me. Always she made sure Chloe, a bright but quiet junior colleague, was also invited. I thought it was her way of fostering team spirit, but it felt a little too orchestrated, a subtle push I couldn't quite place. My preliminary findings were a success. The presentation was met with widespread applause and praise. I felt a surge of pride, a culmination of so much hard work. But Vivienne, while congratulating me, made sure to emphasize the team effort and her invaluable guidance in every comment she made to others. It felt like a small shadow on my moment, a subtle shift in credit. My project funding, which was supposed to be swift, hit unexpected delays. It baffled me. At the same time, Mark started mentioning Chloe more often. She was suddenly on his project, assisting with reports, always needing his input. It felt like a strange coincidence, but I pushed the thought away, telling myself it was just work. Vivienne called me into her office. She insisted I share my detailed, proprietary data with Chloe, explaining it was vital for Chloe's mentorship and development. I felt a pang of protectiveness over my work, a hesitation in my gut. But Vivienne's gaze was firm, unwavering. I reluctantly agreed, trusting her judgment as I always had. While reviewing some old project files, I stumbled upon a fragmented email. It was from Vivienne to Chloe, mentioning operational details and Mark's involvement. It was vague, unsettling. A cold unease settled in my stomach, a whisper of doubt. I dismissed it as overthinking, just a snippet out of context, telling myself not to be paranoid. One morning, a critical data file, securely stored, was missing from my lab. Panic set in. I searched everywhere. Later that day, it reappeared, almost exactly as I left it, but with minor, almost imperceptible alterations to the methodology notes. My heart pounded. Who could access my secured lab? A chill ran through me. Mark began working late, almost every night. He said Vivienne had assigned him and Chloe to urgent, high-priority projects that needed their combined expertise. He seemed distant, preoccupied, his phone always close. I missed our evenings together, our quiet conversations. A new loneliness started to creep into our home, a quiet emptiness. I decided to talk to Vivienne. I confided in her about my project anxieties and Mark's recent distance. She listened, her expression kind, seemingly sympathetic. Then she gently suggested I was overworked and imagining things, that Mark and Chloe were just dedicated professionals. I left her office feeling foolish, more confused, and utterly alone. That night, as I lay awake, the pieces started to connect in a disturbing way. The funding delays, the missing data, Chloe's constant presence, Mark's late nights, Vivienne's dismissals. It wasn't paranoia. A cold, hard knot of suspicion formed in my stomach. Something was profoundly wrong, a meticulously woven web of deceit. I felt a deep chill run down my spine. My suspicion from Chapter 1 solidified into a cold certainty. I knew I couldn't ignore the unsettling feeling any longer. I started checking my project files more closely, looking for anything out of place. I also began to pay more careful attention to Mark's work schedule, noting his late nights and vague explanations. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach, but I knew I had to be strong and find the truth, no matter how painful it might be. My quiet monitoring quickly paid off. One evening, while reviewing server logs, I found something deeply unsettling. There were records of unauthorized access to my secure research server. The logging credentials used were Vivienne's. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat of disbelief. It felt like a physical punch to my gut, a stark betrayal from the person I trusted most. How could she? At the same time, I couldn't help but notice Chloe's project. Her progress was astonishingly fast, almost too perfect. It mirrored parts of my own groundbreaking work, especially the methodology I had painstakingly developed. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying clarity. Vivienne had accessed my confidential work and was feeding it directly to Chloe. A cold, burning anger started to simmer deep inside me, replacing my initial shock. The betrayal felt like a deep, festering wound. I needed more proof, especially about Mark and his involvement. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, I made a difficult decision. I covertly installed monitoring software on our shared work laptop. It felt wrong, an invasion of privacy, but I had to know the full truth. My hands shook as I completed the task, my resolve hardening with each click. The software revealed everything, far more than I had braced myself for. There were countless messages between Mark and Chloe. They were flirtatious, overly familiar, filled with inside jokes. And then I saw messages from Vivienne, subtly pushing them together, orchestrating their chance meetings and urgent collaborations. My world spun violently. It wasn't just my research, it was my entire life. It was all true, a meticulously planned deception. The screen blurred through my tears, each word a dagger to my heart. My revered mentor, my second mother, had not only stolen my groundbreaking research, but had also actively orchestrated an affair between my husband and a junior colleague. The depth of this double betrayal was crushing, suffocating. My vision narrowed, my breath caught in my throat. My life, as I knew it, was not just shattered. It was utterly obliterated by their deceit. With a strength I didn't know I possessed, I confronted Mark. He tried to deny it at first, his eyes darting away from mine, his voice weak. But then, under the weight of my quiet certainty, he crumbled. He confessed to the affair, his words a desperate scramble. He said Vivienne had groomed him, presumed him into it, making him feel important. His excuses felt hollow, but the pain in my heart was a raw, burning agony. Our children were asleep upstairs, blissfully unaware of the storm that had just ripped through their parents' world. Mark's painful confession, though it tore me apart, confirmed my darkest fears. I started to piece together Vivienne's long game, a chilling pattern of manipulation stretching back years, subtle digs at my work, overly generous praise for Chloe, and a deliberate effort to draw Mark into her orbit, always under the guise of teamwork. It wasn't a sudden act. It was a slow, deliberate poisoning of my life, meticulously planned. A cold, calculated rage began to build inside me, stealing my resolve. The sheer weight of it all became utterly unbearable. I cried until I thought I would break, until I had no tears left to shed. The loss of Vivienne, the mentor I had adored and looked up to as a second mother, felt like a profound death. My marriage, once the unshakable foundation of my life, was irrevocably broken. My professional integrity, my life's work, had been callously stolen. I felt completely empty, hollowed out by an overwhelming grief that threatened to consume me whole. Days passed in a blur of pain and disbelief. Then, a chance meeting with an old, disgruntled former colleague of Vivienne's opened my eyes even further. She spoke of Vivienne's past, revealing a disturbing pattern of similar professional betrayals, careers ruined, ideas stolen. It wasn't just me. I was part of a larger, darker history. My despair slowly, painfully, transformed into a burning, unwavering resolve for justice and reclamation. I looked at a framed photo of myself, Mark, and Vivienne, smiling falsely, a cold, hard glint entering my eyes. They would pay for every single betrayal. The days after the confession were a blur of cold determination. I started to build my case, piece by careful piece. I hunted for digital footprints of the stolen research, found encrypted messages that detailed the affair, and even connected with others Vivienne had wronged in the past. Each discovery solidified my resolve, replacing the pain with a quiet, burning focus. I felt like a detective, meticulously gathering every scrap of truth. My scientific mind, once used for discovery, now turned to strategy. I embedded a subtle, undetectable trap within my stolen research. It was a unique signature, a specific sequence of data that only I would recognize as a deliberate error. Anyone presenting it as their own would unknowingly expose their plagiarism. I felt a grim satisfaction, knowing I was turning their own deceit against them. Next, I sought out a trusted legal expert. She specialized in intellectual property and workplace ethics. Laying out my evidence, I watched her expression shift from skepticism to shock. Her quiet nods and assurances gave me strength. I felt a surge of empowerment, knowing I was building an unshakable case, not just for myself, but for justice. The stage for confrontation was set, a high-profile industry conference. Both Vivienne and I were scheduled to present our respective findings. I had worked quietly, pulling strings, ensuring our presentations were back-to-back. There was a nervous energy in the air, a sense of impending climax. I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration, knowing this was my moment. Vivienne took the stage, presenting my stolen work as her own. She spoke with practiced confidence. My heart pounded, but I remained calm. At the precise moment, I subtly activated the trap. A ripple of confusion spread through the audience as the embedded flaw became undeniable. I watched Vivienne's confident smile falter, a quiet, powerful vindication filling me. Then it was my turn. I stepped onto the stage, the spotlight warm on my face. I presented my original, authenticated research, the true findings, the real innovation. The audience's murmurs turned to gasps, then to applause. I felt a profound sense of reclaiming what was mine, not just the research, but my professional identity. It was a victory hard won. After the presentations, I found Vivienne in a quiet hallway. I held out my tablet, displaying the full, undeniable evidence of her professional espionage and personal manipulation. Her face drained of color. She tried to speak, but no words came. I stood firm, my voice calm but unwavering, leaving her with the cold, hard truth of her ruin. There was no pleasure in her pain, only a quiet, resolute justice. The company launched an immediate internal investigation. The evidence was overwhelming. Vivienne was terminated, her career and reputation in ruins. Chloe was also implicated, her future as a scientist now uncertain. I felt no joy in their downfall, only a sense of heavy closure. The intricate web they wove had finally unraveled, and they were caught within its threads. My decision about Mark was the hardest. He had been a part of the deception, however manipulated. I knew I needed to prioritize my healing and my revitalized career. We spoke, long and painfully. I told him I needed space, time to rebuild myself. A future might be possible, but only if it was built on true, unwavering trust, and that would take years to earn back. It was a bittersweet decision, but necessary for my peace. I walked into my lab, now truly mine again. The air felt different, cleaner, filled with possibility. My name was now synonymous with groundbreaking innovation and unwavering integrity. The quiet hum of the machines was a comforting sound. I had faced betrayal, fought for my truth, and reclaimed my life. A quiet, powerful triumph settled in my heart. a cold, unshakable certainty that I had the last word, and my future was finally, truly my own.